This girl emailed me and said that she was chased by something that looked like a demon in the Appalachian Mountains and ended up in the hospital because of it. So we're gonna call this person Jamie. Every summer, Jamie would go visit her grandmother in the Appalachian Mountains. So when Jamie was 13 years old, summer came around and she went to her grandmother's house like she always did. So she goes to the Appalachian Mountains, and as soon as she walks up to her grandmother's house, her grandmother is sitting on the porch, and her grandmother immediately tells her to go to her grandpa's house. Now, her grandmother and her grandfather were divorced, but they only lived about 500, 600 feet away from each other, so she was able to walk over to her grandfather's house. Her grandmother wanted her to bring a stack of papers to her grandfather's house. So she grabs the stack of papers from her grandmother and she goes to walk to her grandfather's house. As she's walking to her grandfather's house, she is kind of walking through the woods, and she said that at first it was okay, but then suddenly she started to get this feeling of dread. It was pretty heavy on her chest, and she felt like somebody was watching her. Now, she had walked to her grandfather's house before several times, and she didn't really like walking in these woods. They kind of freaked her out, and she would get this feeling of dread a lot, but she said that this was the worst feeling that she had ever gotten. But she decides that she's going to shrug it off, because she's like, I've had this feeling before. It's fine. I'm just going to get to my grandfather's house. It's not that far away, so she continues to walk. So she continues to walk. She gets a bit further, and suddenly she hears this horrifying, screeching scream. She said that it sounded a lot like a bobcat, but just a lot deeper. Like the tone was much lower. It didn't sound very natural, but in her head, she's thinking it's just a bobcat. So she just continues to walk. She said that continuing to walk after hearing the scream was one of the biggest mistakes that she has ever made, and she wishes to this day that she did not make that mistake. So she continues walking. She's about 500 feet away at this point when she hears her grandmother call her. She doesn't think that this is that weird because she is only about 500 feet away, like I said, and her grandmother could have easily caught up to her because she is a very slow walker, or was a very slow walker at this time, she said. So she hears her grandmother's voice, but the only thing that made her think twice about it is it sounded different. The voice again sounded lower. She also said that it didn't sound exactly like her grandmother's voice. It almost sounded like something else was trying to mimic her grandmother's voice and just got very close to it, but again, it was lower, it was deeper. So she's looking around the trees and she's like, what? Like, what do you need? She's thinking her grandmother's out in the woods acting weird, and she hears a branch snap behind her. So she quickly turns around because she's on high alert at this point and she doesn't see anything. She turns back around and she continues to walk. She's getting scared at this point because all these things are kind of not adding up. I mean, one thing would have been okay, but multiple things like this, it's getting to her at this point. So she's kind of walking a little bit faster when suddenly she feels something shove her and she falls on a rock. She said as soon as she hit the ground, she got this feeling of dread like she has never felt before in her entire life. And suddenly she cannot move. She can't move her body. So she's laying on the ground and she physically is paralyzed. She cannot move. So she's scanning the forest with her eyes at this point, trying to figure out what's going on when she hears laughter. And she said that this laughter did not sound like a person. Now, I emailed her back to ask her exactly what the laughter sounded like, and she didn't get back to me. So all I know is it did not sound human. So she tries to scan her eyes where that laughter is coming from, and she is petrified at this point because she's frozen. She cannot move. She's literally paralyzed on the ground in the Appalachian Mountains, and she's hearing all of this stuff when suddenly she sees something out of the corner of her eye. She said she saw something that was extremely tall, very thin. It had a smile so wide it almost seemed unreal to her, like she didn't understand how something could smile that big. Its teeth were black, like pitch black, and super sharp and long. She said that they looked so sharp and long that it looked like if it closed its mouth, its teeth would go right through its gums. She's laying there on the ground, petrified, literally thinking she's not going to make it. She said she could not believe what she was seeing. She said the moment she thought this thing was going to attack her, she all of a sudden could move again, and she jumped up and she just starts running towards her grandfather's house. She said as soon as she thought that it was going to be the end for her, all of a sudden she could move and she just bolted out of there. She starts running towards her grandfather's house. As she's running towards her grandfather's house, she can hear this thing like galloping behind her. It is keeping pace with her. It is chasing her at this point. So she finally gets to a point where she sees her grandfather's house and the door is open, almost as if her grandfather knew she was going to arrive in such a way. She said she finally gets to the door. She slams it as hard as she can and she just starts crying. She's telling her grandfather what happened and she's hysterically crying. She's shaking. She is afraid that he isn't going to believe her, and all of a sudden they both just hear this shriek come from outside. She said it was the last scream that she has ever heard from this thing. She said after this that her grandfather drove her to her grandmother's house and that she stayed at her grandmother's house for a week and would not come out of her grandmother's house for an entire week. Her mom actually had to come get her early. She had to come drive to the Appalachian Mountains and come pick her up because she was too traumatized to stay there. The issue is that she was so traumatized that she stopped eating and she stopped sleeping. And this got so bad that she actually ended up having to go to the hospital because of it. She eventually got out of the hospital and she recovered, but she said that this is the most terrifying thing that has ever happened to her and that she will never forget it. To this day, she thinks about it. So what do you guys think about this story? This is really weird because, and one of the reasons I told this story is because the third story, I think it was the third story I ever told. It might have been like, it was in the very beginning of me ever telling stories. Another girl experienced something like this, and I think it was in the Appalachian Mountains. I'll have to retell the story because it was a good story and I haven't told it for a year. And sometimes I'll retell stories that I've told a long time ago so that my new followers can hear them. And because sometimes, you forget stories. I don't like to do it often because I don't really like to retell stories on my account. I like them to be new, but I think it'd be interesting to retell that story because it's very similar to this one in ways where I've never heard of anyone seeing like a in the forest, and she described this as that, and so did the other girl that described, and it sounded very similar. I think they had similar features. I'll have to go back and watch the video, but it's weird that two different people sent me a story that was so similar. You guys remember that story that I'm talking about? It was like, I remember it was around Christmas time. I was wearing a red sweater that said like Mary on it or something like that. I don't know why I remember that. I had sunglasses on my head. I remember that. Anyways, what do you guys think of the story? What do you think it was? Drop in the comments. Drop your thoughts, opinions, suggestions. But as always, please be respectful. One more thing before we do the shout outs. I'm going to make a separate video about this tomorrow. I'm going to pin it at the top of my page. Just like I'm going to basically just tell you guys like what this account is about, what kind of stories I tell, things that aren't acceptable here and are acceptable here, etc. That type of video should be pinned at the top of my page, but I'm just going to tell you guys one more time. I don't tell AI generated stories. I do run your stories through ChatGPT, especially if I think that they are AI generated, and I can tell I've never been wrong. I've never been wrong. Please do not send me AI generated stories. Not only are you wasting my time, but it's dishonest, and I do not tell fake stories on this account. Obviously, I cannot confirm or deny whether any of these stories are true, right? But if I know that they're not true, I am not going to tell them. Also, guys, please tell me your age when you send me your stories, because if you're not 18, I can't tell your stories. And if I do accidentally tell your story and you're underage, I do have to private your story. Okay? I'll put that in the video too. And I won't rant about this in another video again. So I'm sorry, except for the video that I post about this. Okay, now we're going to go on the shout outs. Thanks for listening. Hope Lizzie Bet. Number one, you said that you heard a voice in one of my videos, and I would like you to tag me in that video, please, because I would like to hear what you're talking about. It kind of freaks me out. But you also said that my stories are like therapy to you, and I love that so much. Thank you for saying that. Thank you so much for listening to my stories and for commenting and for being kind and for being a part of my community and supporting me. You have no idea how much it means to me and how much you guys mean to me and how much you mean to me as an individual. So thank you so much for your support, and please tag me in that video. I love you. Bailey Joe Howell, you said that you binge watch my videos while you're working and stuff, and I love that so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting me and being a part of my community. By the way, you're from Utah, and I was born in Salt Lake City. I lived there till I was 14. So that's interesting. I miss it there. It's such a good state. And thank you so much for being kind, and thank you just for liking my stories enough to binge them. It means so much to me, and you mean so much to me as an individual, and I hope you know how much I appreciate you and your support. I love you. And with that being said, my name is Kajsa, and I tell your paranormal experiences on here or ones that you recommend to me every single night. So if you're into that, hit that follow button, and I just need you to do 3 things for me. One of those, keep sending me your scary stories. Have a safe night. And what's the third one? Say it with me. Have a spooky night. Love you so much, my spooky babies. I'll see you